Summer routines live or die by how easy they are, and honestly, if something takes too much effort, I'm out. That's why Groons is my go-to. It's my one daily pack of gummies covering my greens, vitamins, and minerals. Plus, it has 6 grams of prebiotic fiber, which is more than 2 cups of broccoli. No mixing powders, no giant pills, no hassle. I just rip open the pack and I'm done. They taste good and they make it easy to stay on top of my health, even when life gets busy. Save up to 52% with the code PODCAST at Groons.co. That's code PODCAST at GRUNS.co.
From the kids to Aunt Sue. Keep your whole family connected on all their devices with crowd-pleasing gig-speed internet from Xfinity. Now that's simple, easy, awesome. Go online, call 1-800-XFINITY or visit today. Restrictions apply. Actual speed vary and not guaranteed.
So Michael spent the last 6 hours in a coffee shop near me, and we now know that there's a new size at the monolithic coffee chain. There's tall, there's grande, there's venti, and now there is defibrillator.
Defibrillator.
I can't
we
say
both can't get it. Wow. Talk about screwing up the beginning of a show.
But
should we start
part
over?
of the charm of this show is what we screw up.
Yeah.
And we never disappoint in that category.
There used to be like a Trenta or Trente or something.
Trente?
I don't even know.
Trench? Just a trench filled with coffee?
Yeah. Yeah, 6 hours at a Starbucks. You came in there and you're like, how long have you been here? And I actually showed you my email.
Well, I guessed that you'd been 6 hours.
You guessed 6 hours on Twitter, and you exactly to the dot, right. I showed you my email from the Minneapolis Parking Association that sent me my first email at 12:46 that I had parked, and you came in there at 6:45. So, yeah, a lot of writing today, a lot of talking to agents, a lot of talking to sources. It was a long day at the coffee shop.
Let's get to the newsiest stuff here. This is the Russo-Souhan Show, part of the MNSPN.com podcast network. We have Smalley on baseball, Krasinski on basketball, Tim Yoder of Viking Update on the Viking Update show. We have the Fan Show with Nick Henry. We have my new show with Ryan Shaver, which is a blast. We're going to have guests on that show. We've had Jordan Taylor and Cheryl Reeves, our first couple of guests, and I'm really enjoying that show. Please check that out. You can always subscribe at iTunes or your favorite podcast app. Go directly to mnspn.com. Thanks to Twill in the Edina Galleria, Sandvold Financial Group, Todd Moritz, Moritz of Sandvold Financial Group, Fixologyrepair.com, and crown-bank.com for sponsoring the shows. If you'd like to sponsor the show, you can reach me at jsouhan@startribune.com. Let's start with Fletcher.
Yeah, two of the big stories today were Kyle Quincey finally being put on waivers, and then Chuck Fletcher. Obviously this isn't new, but I have been able to confirm. It's been a couple weeks of, the one thing about Craig Leopold is he doesn't announce Chuck Fletcher's contract situation. He never has under the multiple contracts that he's signed. And so for the last couple weeks, talking to people, I've gotten wind that he's working in the last year of his contract. And, really just the last couple days is when I started to really get it down ironclad. And today was the day that I finally was able to publish it after feeling without a doubt confident in my multiple sources. This isn't just a two-source story. This has been 6, 7, 8 people that I've talked to that have confirmed it. And, Craig Leopold didn't want to comment on it today and didn't want to talk at all. Chuck Fletcher talked to the media today down at St. Thomas Academy about the state of the team and his decision to put Kyle Quincey on waivers. But when I got him on the side, same thing. He did not want to talk about his contract situation. It's obviously the one thing I have learned is that this is not the first time he has worked in the final year of his contract here in Minnesota. So this is not something new. But it is different because they're coming off a second straight playoff exit where Craig Leopold said he wasn't happy. Early going into this year, as you know, Jim, he said that it's essentially Stanley Cup or bust. And it's been an unbelievably tumultuous first quarter of the season for the Wild. And when you have a team coming off, and again, the timing is just coincidental. I swear to God that I didn't just throw this out there today because they're coming off 7-2 and 6-3 losses. That's not my style. It's just kind of the day that it all happened.
And I know from having been a beat writer for
Right.
a long time, when you get news, you got to get it out there, regardless of what it looks
And
like.
I will say with them, although they were 6-1 and 1 in their last 8 going into this whole kind of debacle of a weekend, but when all of a sudden things are kind of tumultuous and you start asking more and more and you try to iron it down, but the timing did just go succinctly. Although I once told an athletic director this when they were 10-0, and I wrote that he was using ineligible players and they had to forfeit their entire year, that the timing was coincidental, and he didn't believe me either. Olympic Heights High School Booker told me.
I'm sure he's gotten
Dave
over
Courier was the athletic director. My brother was a student, which
Who hates you more, that guy or James Neal?
yeah. Well, my brother at the time was not a fan since he was a student at the school that I wrote the story and ruined their football season.
And that's the life of a journalist.
Yeah.
You ain't doing your job if you're not
Yeah.
ticking somebody off.
Yeah, and here I was freaking 18 years old doing that. So that was tough. Going to the rival high school. Seems to be a lot of conflicts of interest with that story. But anyway,
I'm just going to let you talk.
yeah.
Just keep going.
So, but look, the key is what's dangerous, and we did a story on The Athletic today about it. What's dangerous about having, a GM working in the last year of his deal is that he doesn't do stuff for the best interest of the organization. Now, Chuck is not somebody that is going to, mortgage the future and trade a bunch of players.
Because he's
and
already
assets.
done
Yeah.
that. He can't do it
That was
anymore.
kind of why I kind of cracked up at you when I was about to say it. That's your job to point that out. But yeah, let's put it this way. I did put in the story that he's not going to do it, and then I deleted the sentence because I was worried that would be the joke. But he's conducting it like it's like he is working for the future. I mean, it might be controversial, but bringing it, signing Mikko Koivu and things like that. But again, from a fan's perspective, and maybe from an organizational perspective, the danger of having somebody working in the last year of their contract is you're having him make long-term decisions now that he might not be around for. So are you comfortable with him going into this year signing Mikko Koivu? Are you comfortable with him making trade deadline moves potentially in the next couple of months if you're going to just throw him out the door in April? Which is why the thing is that, you do have to wonder if he's going to last the year, because maybe you don't want him making those decisions. But the question is, if the person that's going to replace Chuck, if there is going to be that person, is currently employed elsewhere and not available now, what's worth making the move to just make a Brent Flair an interim GM and then have him make potential long-term moves that he might not even be around for, unless he is the next GM, which, again, I think would be something, again, that's total conjecture. So the one thing that is interesting is that there are 3 or 4 GMs out there right now, all working in the last year of their contract. Chuck Fletcher is one. Doug Armstrong in St. Louis is another. Kenny Holland in Detroit is another. Lou Lamoriello in Toronto is another. And then I believe Brian McClellan, the Washington Capitals GM, is another. And who, by the way, has a house here in Minnesota and lives here during the offseason. So that's interesting. Just kind of popped in my head. But, so all of a sudden you could potentially have a lot of free agents out there. So that does not help Chuck Fletcher's cause if this season goes pear-shaped.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the 2-game collapse they're on. As you pointed out before we started the podcast, they were actually playing pretty well before that, but it's been alarming, if not embarrassing, the last couple of games. Do want to thank Twill in the Dining Galleria, Scott Dayton's shop, right there on France Avenue. Easy in, easy out, a very friendly, cozy shop with a game on the TV. Scott and his staff have taken good care of me when I've shopped there, and I, by the way, I spend my own money there, and they'll take good care of you as well.
Hi, I'm Stacy Souhan. I love Twill, Scott Dayton's shop in the Edina Galleria. Twill takes the stress out of shopping by offering updated traditional fashion. I know that if Jim goes in there shopping alone, I will like what he buys, whether it's pajamas, flannel shirts, or suits. I plan to recommend Twill to my daughter when she has to buy wedding party gifts and attire. Twill in the Edina Galleria will bring your fashion game to a championship level.
So what have you made of this 2-game absolute collapse? Why are you guys laughing?
Because I keep on putting the mic away while I take sips of my water, and it's clearly going through the mic because Brandon's just like rolling his eyes.
Hey, by the way, Shaver and I came up with a nickname. Well, I did, but when we're doing the Shaver and Souhan show, new nickname for Brandon, Podcast Jesus.
Yeah. He definitely is
Doesn't
starting
he?
to look like absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. Wait till like
hey, Mr. Jesus, as Sid would call you.
Yeah.
Why don't you're down here on Earth? Why don't you do something about everything that's going on in the world? This is the most amazing news day. We're talking here on a Wednesday. We're not even going to talk about it because there was too much.
What happened in the news today?
Okay, Matt Lauer got fired for sexually harassing and assaulting his coworkers.
Okay, there, missed it.
The North Korea tested nukes that theoretically could reach the United States.
All right, it definitely missed that one.
Let's see, a war criminal. I'm even blank somewhere in Eastern Europe. I'm even blanking on the country. Got up in the middle of a trial, drank poison, and died on the stand. And that was like the 12th most important news story of the day.
Oh my God! I gotta go back and check and catch up with today.
Are you
telling me that Kyle Quincy wasn't the biggest news in this world today?
And then Trump did like 18 things.
Okay.
And I'm not
well,
even
I have been at Starbucks for the last 6 hours dealing with agents and people and writing about Eric Holla and Alex Tuck. So
you are starting to remind me of an NFL head coach.
Do you think that if Kim Jong-un nuked the United States that I would even notice?
Depends on where it landed.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I would say this, that most American cities have hockey teams.
Yeah.
So he would probably go after D.C., and so you'd know about it because it's the Capitals.
I hope he waits a week because I'm going to California this week.
He's going to go East Coast.
I think he's going to go West
No,
Coast.
he's going to go. No, you know where he's going to go.
West Coast is the easiest to get to.
No. He's going to go right at Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah. Oh, guys, Mira, this is going to be a... That was like, what would they do if they nuked like part of California right off the map? Would the NHL just?
I mean, it's really just saving a step.
continue
I mean,
season?
California's going to fall off the end of the earth anyway. So,
Oh my God!
all right, we're going to stop. We're going to stop.
I
joking
can't
about
believe
world
all this
events.
stuff happened today, and I didn't.
I'm not
Matt
even.
Lauer was fired.
Yes.
Are you kidding me?
No, dead serious. Oh, and Garrison Keillor was fired by NPR.
That one I did see.
Okay.
So Matt Lauer, wow, that just almost shows that like nobody's like you always think like there's a person at every organization that is.
You start reading like you at the Athletic.
Yeah. Well, but like you do think that like that there's always somebody that's like there's nothing that could get that guy fired.
That's because
And
you
wow,
worked with
and
Sid,
Matt Lauer
and
would
Sid
be-
has done everything
Yep.
you could possibly do wrong as a journalist, and he still has a job.
So wow, that's crazy.
That's and the stories are disgusting once you start reading the people who know what they're talking about.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
They also apparently and like big time NBC people, they have a button under the desk that can lock the door from the inside when they're in the room with somebody.
Huh.
Matt Lauer had that.
That's nuts.
Yes. All right, back to
Why do
hockey.
People even think like this stuff flies and like even not it's not even like men thinking they have power over. But where do they even come up with this in their head that this is appropriate?
I don't. Well, it really is power. It's all about power and the word of the year, entitlement.
Yeah. Yeah. That's nuts to me. Wow, I can't believe I missed that story. So that's interesting.
But you were working on a much bigger story than us getting nuked. Kyle Quincey.
Yeah, Kyle Quincy was put on. Look, it probably had to happen at some point here.
Yeah.
You know, man, he's just been terrible. He's coming off a couple real tough games in a row. The penalty that he took last game, again, the way the Wild were playing, they probably would have lost that game anyway. But he takes the penalty right after they score a goal to make it 2-1 to put him on the PK. Yes, kill the penalty, but hey, wound up being 2-2. It's par for the course the way that thing's going. And then same thing in St. Louis. Wild are playing great. Yes, they're down 1-0 at the time, but then he turns the puck over right in the front of the net for a goal. He's taken 5 minors in his last 6 games or something like that. Maybe it's even 6 in his last 5, I think it was. And just one of the worst possession defensemen in the league, and there've been all sorts of other things going on with him as well. So they're making the move now to get him out. The big thing was that they, at least in Bruce's mind, expected him to be the veteran that was going to play the right side this season. And instead, in training camp, Bruce Boudreau, and I've brought this up in the last couple of podcasts, I've kind of alluded to the fact that I was hearing that what I think I said in the last couple of podcasts is I want to know why you would have Olsen or Riley playing the right side when Quincey was the guy that they said would play the right side, and nobody would answer that question. And today I asked it again point blank to Bruce, and he just said it. He admitted it, that in training camp, Kyle Quincey Quincy would not play the right side.
Wow.
So then all of a sudden, in Bruce's words, Mike Riley just volunteered, all right, I'll play the right side. So that's why whenever Quincy or Olofsson have been in the lineup with Riley, Riley's always the guy on the right side because he volunteered to put himself in a...
That's no way to run a hockey team.
Yeah. And so again, look, it's not... It's obviously an unnatural thing for a left shot D, especially young, to play the right side. It's not easy, although Jonas Brodin a lot of times looks very comfortable doing it. And there's a lot of left shot D that play the right side in the league. We just came from Buffalo where they have 6 left shot D. But to have 2 young D playing that made no sense. So now they get Quincy out of here. And now tomorrow night, at least, against the Vegas Golden Knights, you'll have Murphy playing on the right side, you'll have Dumba playing on the right side, and you'll have the left shot Brodin playing on the right side. And now in the same game for the first time, you'll get Olofsson and Riley playing their natural position. And they think that it'll give them each, or at least Bruce does, a better position to succeed. The question is, what happens when Quincy clears waivers if he does on Thursday? My gut from talking to sources is that he is not going to report to Iowa. So what happens next? I cannot imagine that after the stuff that was written and said today by the organization that they're just going to say, all right, you're back on the roster.
Right.
So then what happens? Does he sit out and wait to be traded? Or do we all of a sudden in the next couple of days find out that he's on unconditional waivers and is essentially let go out of his contract, which would also open up a contract for the Wild, and he finds another place or goes to Europe? I don't know. I just can't see him in Iowa, and I can't see the Wild wanting him down in Iowa playing with their young guys. So then the other thing is what happens tomorrow on Thursday, too. Nate Prosser's on waivers, Jim. He's not a savior. I mean, I get that.
I'd take him for this.
He's not. He's not a knight in shining armor. He is Nate Prosser, 7th D, 6th D here for many, many years. But he's a right shot D,
and he'll play the game.
He's
the
somebody
right
that
way.
Bruce trusts. So, but the thing is that the Wild have 49 contracts. The most you can have is 50. So, do you take him, make him the 50th contract, and then find a way to dump a contract later? The other thing is, does Nate even get to them? As I just mentioned, the way that works in waivers is it's worst record to best record. And right now, the Buffalo Sabres would have higher waiver priority over a team like Minnesota. And I just mentioned they've got a ton of injuries and a bunch of left shot D. Could they use Nate Prosser?
Interesting. Up next, Parise, Dumba, Neal, and the collapse. So we didn't really talk about. We'll get back to that. Do want to thank Todd Moritz, Moritz, of Sandvold Financial Group, SAND, V as in victory, OLD.
Plan for tomorrow today. It sounds easy, but for many people it's not. The good news is, planning for your financial future isn't something you have to do all by yourself. Visit sandvoldfinancialgroup.com to request more information and ask for the tax-efficient insight of Todd Moritz, CPA.
Registered representative of and independent of Questar Capital Corporation. Member FINRA SIPC. Advisory services offered through Questar Asset Management.
We didn't really talk about the collapse. What has gone wrong the last 2 games other than Quincy?
Well, I think Chuck Fletcher said it today. I mean, they're just playing like ridiculously stupid hockey. I mean, just dumb. The way this team is successful usually is like the first goal the other night that Zucker scored from Coyle starts with them playing great defense and turning it into offense. Olofsson steps up into Blake Wheeler, turnover, quick up to Charlie Coyle, goal, Jason Zucker. Then they're up 2-0 in that game, and they just start playing stupid. They're turning pucks over. Why do you think the Wild absolutely suck in the second period this year? Why is it every second period are they awful? Long change by the D. Forwards aren't getting pucks deep. Forwards are turning pucks over at the offensive blue line. And boom, defensemen that are late in shifts are getting flat-footed coming back, and it's goal after goal, it's goal. And these are players that should know better doing it. The other night, game's tied 2-2. Second period, long change. All 5 players on the ice for a long time. Marcus Foligno needs to get off for a change, and instead of getting the puck deep on that situation, Matt Cullen drops him a pass along the board. I'm pretty positive that Marcus Foligno is not scoring from 60 feet on the sidewall. I'll bet my life on it, okay? And I like Matt Cullen, but he's got to be better there.
Yeah.
So what happens is Foligno's now in a board battle with 3 guys. Kopp just casually takes the puck. Boom. Now it's a 2-on-2. A flat-footed Quincy, Gustav Olofsson, Chris Stewart lollygagging back. So now Quincy decides.
It's starting to sound like a Timberwolves game.
Quincy decides to step up to try to play to to essentially go up. Doesn't work. Now it's a 2-on-1 going back with Olsen back. So Olsen now goes to Scheifele, which everybody, the coaches I've talked to, and even Chuck today said there's nothing that Olsen could have done there. He had to go to Scheifele. It should have been fine if Stewart had back-checked. But Stewart didn't back-check, so now Scheifele easily hits, I don't even remember who the heck the defenseman was, Jacob Trouba, for the goal. All starts because of Cullen. 3-2 now. Now another shift. Matt Cullen inexplicably leaves Matthew Perreault. Goal. 4-2. On the 6th goal, same thing. Quincey is running around God knows what to start a fight with Nikolai Ehlers. But if you look at the replay, who was the one guy that wasn't defending anybody? It was Matt Cullen. Brian Little is all alone in front of the net. The Wild have given up 4 goals in the last 2 games with guys. I've never seen this in my life. Like Wild players not even within 5, 6, 10, and on that goal, 20 feet.
Amazing.
I mean, this cannot happen. And this isn't just because Scott Stevens is not here and the Wild don't know how to defend anymore. These are experienced players that know how to play hockey that are just doing stupid stuff on the ice. And so Fletcher today comes out and just hammered the forwards, destroyed them. Usually things are like, it's like, put lipstick on a pig stuff with Chuck. It's everything's rosy.
Yep.
I mean, you saw in the postseason presser last year.
Oh, believe me, I've tried to wash that out of my brain, but I haven't been able to.
But today he didn't. And why? Because he's in the last year of his contract, and because they're at the cap. He knows that he can't go out and make a blockbuster trade right now. There's just no way, especially because Zach Parise is going to come back this season. And because Zach's going to come back and he's on long-term injured reserve, if Zach wasn't coming back, technically, Chuck Fletcher would have all the cap space in the world to make moves. But because he's got to get cap compliant with when Parise comes back in a month or 2, he can't just go out and use his cap space. So he knows that any move he could potentially make is Nate Prosser-like. It's tinkering. It's little depth moves. Nothing really of impact. And so what he's doing now is the hell with it. He just went after the forwards. And he destroyed the 4th line today of Foligno, Stewart, and Cullen. Destroyed them, but then he made it extremely clear that this is not just them. I mean, just think of the top 6 mistakes. Look, Nino's playing unbelievable right now. I should not be hammering Nino Niederreiter, but who on this team has made more egregious turnovers on a 4 or 5 times basis a game lately than Nino? Zucker throwing pucks away. Stahl. I mean, you think of here's another example of what I was just talking about. Stahl, the 4th goal in Winnipeg at the end of October when Brodin, who has pretty quick feet, and Dumba were beat on that 1 goal. They look like the idiots, but why did that happen? Because Stahl didn't get the puck deep in the neutral zone. Mikhail Granlund, the last home game, not the New Jersey one, but the home game, not the Colorado, but not the New Jersey, but the home game before that. I've pointed it out. Just egregious turnovers. So these are top 6 guys as well, making these mistakes, Jim, and so that's why the collapse happens. That's why this team. I mean, they're not even down like 1 going into the 3rd anymore. They're down 2 every night. Every night. The last 2 home games that the Wild played, they had to rally back in the 3rd period, down by 2. And again, New Jersey, and then the game before that, and then again, obviously St. Louis down by 2 going into the 3rd. Same thing in Winnipeg.
If you need something fixed other than the Wild's defense, I recommend John Hedges
You're good.
of Fixology Repair.
Good.
Fixologyrepair.com. John works out at the shop at 3rd floor of the Mall of America up by Nordstrom's. You know his name. You know his business. We've been telling you about him for a long time. We've both had stuff worked on there. We've had great customer service. We highly recommend Fixologyrepair.com.
There are some things in life that you just can't live without. Now, whether it's a special piece of jewelry, a watch, or even your smartphone, you want it in working condition. At Fixology Repair, we are committed to restoring your pieces so that everything works or fits the way it ought to. Watch servicing, chain repair, and broken screen replacements are just a few of the services that we offer at Mall of America. Please visit us at Fixologyrepair.com or at FixologyMN on Twitter to learn more. Mention this ad and get a 10% discount on our services.
Somebody just tweeted me, actually, that they went to Fixology and got great...
cool.
How come Brandon's phone has no fingerprints on it? What's that about? How's that possible? How do you keep it so clean?
You really think Jesus has fingerprints?
Yeah, seriously, my God, look at mine.
No, I'd rather not. That's disgusting.
It's like filled with fingerprints and caffeine.
So here we have the three levels of phone maintenance. We have no fingerprints on Brandon's. We have some panicked fingerprints on yours, and then we have like
cracks,
dog hairs, and sloppy food stains, and everything else on mine.
Yeah. What
All
else?
right. I was going to say, even before you brought
Vegas
it up.
is in town tomorrow.
Yeah, but one more note. It has been strange to me to see Stahl and Cullen, two prideful veterans who have played really well as recently as last year, just not be into it. Mentally.
Well, I actually think that Stahl has been pretty decent this year. It's
really?
Yeah.
I've missed that.
I really do. He's actually on pace for, I think, more points than he had last year. And,
yeah.
He's scored some big goals and things like that, but defensively he has not been very good. And he's been on every single line, but Cullen has been a disappointment. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And I think we all know that, again, I've covered him 3 times. Tremendous person. But if this season goes haywire, I could see him back on Pittsburgh. Like, that's why it's like I keep on, I kind of, keep. I pointed it out in my game story the other night from Winnipeg, but that he could potentially wind up back there. But I just can see it. I'm not so sure he's not potentially going to wind up back with Jim Rutherford. He's acquired him 3 times as a GM, twice in Carolina, once in Pittsburgh, and then re-signed him in Pittsburgh, and so technically 4 if you want to count that. And then and I could see a 5th.
Interesting.
If the season goes bad. I mean, look, it's early, but and they're only 2 points out of a playoff spot going into tonight's games. But there's this bad feel from the start.
And there's been a bad feel all along.
Yeah,
Even when they were playing well, it didn't feel significant.
I mean, just from Stevens quitting to Parisi's injury to just weird stuff all year long, that it just does not feel exactly like it almost feels like they're chasing and chasing and chasing.
It has felt this way since the first game against St. Louis in the playoffs.
And again, what's concerning is the team, they are 8 points back of 3rd in the division. And again, top 3 make it. So right now they are chasing a wild card spot. And who's coming out? Vegas leads the Pacific. And Winnipeg looks legit, man. I mean, now that they're getting great defense and goaltending, they look awesome. And so, and Dallas is right there in a wild card spot, and they look decent. And so again, it's tough. Colorado's better. Things like that.
When is James Neal going to be a guest on the podcast?
Maybe tomorrow. I'm going to try to talk to him tomorrow. I don't know if we're going to have an intervention or anything like that, but I am fascinated. I mean, here's a guy that's on pace for 20 goals for a 9th straight year. I mean, there's few more consistent players than Neal. I wrote for, it's probably going to be up by the time this podcast comes out tonight, but I wrote a Tuck and Holla kind of anatomy on how that trade all went down. That's going to go up tonight. But then tomorrow, I talked to George McPhee for a half hour yesterday. And for a long time we talked. And we really talked a lot about how he built this team, how good they're playing. Which I felt was the most heart-wrenching part of the interview was the Vegas Golden Knights' role in the tragedy that happened in early October there with the shooting at the Mandalay Bay into the parking lot there at the country concert. And their incredible, belief that they could be a really big part of the community by trying to honor the first responders and the families that were all involved in this tragedy. And then you have the typical expansion, quote unquote, cast-offs. The guys that were kicked off their team that have a chip on their shoulder, and they seem to have all embraced this. Brujo joked today that he bets Holla is going to have money on the board, which again, the point of the joke is a reference to a long hockey tradition, and maybe in other sports too, where if you are playing your former team, you put your number on the board and a dollar amount, and sometimes that dollar amount goes to the team party, sometimes that dollar amount goes to the guy that scores the winning goal that night. And he joked that Holla, who I think is a avid fantasy guy at least, is gonna toss some money, and so there's some motivation. I talked to Alex Tuck for the story too. It was awesome. So tomorrow in the locker room, I want to talk to Neal. I want to talk to guys like William Karlsson and Nate Schmidt and all these guys that have really had unbelievable starts to their careers there. Riley Smith in Vegas. The home ice advantage that a lot of people thought that they'd get in Vegas with all these players going out and having fun the night before and probably day of
They
games.
call it the South Beach effect in the NBA.
Yeah, exactly. And so, up until they were shut out last night by the Stars, I mean, they were playing unbelievable at home.
What's up with Dumba?
Dumba, not very good. It just hasn't been good lately. He was playing well for a while during the 6-1-1 streak, but he was not good with Quincey, that's for sure, the other night. And it's becoming more of an issue because remember, a lot of what the Wild did this past offseason to make sure that they kind of steered Vegas away from taking Dumba and Scandella was to keep Dumba and Scandella so they could trade Scandella and keep Dumba. And so now it's just looking wrong. And the good news is, but again, the guy in the last year of his contract would have to make this deal, or maybe not. I mean, technically you would make this type of trade at the draft and you could be gone by then if that's the way we're thinking with Chuck is Dumba's in the last year of his contract and, you'd have to re-sign him long-term and maybe this is the summer that you try to trade him.
Let's do Twitter questions next, unless there's something else you're dying to get to.
No,
We'll do Twitter questions next. Thanks to Crown Bank, crown-bank.com. Locations in Edina and Minneapolis. I walk by their branches and drive by their branches all the time.
Your banking relationship should match your lifestyle. And if your lifestyle is to live well, you want Crown Bank. You want a bank and a banker who will give you what you want and what you need without a hassle. Crown Bank is responsive. From ordering checks to making you a loan, they build a relationship with you that will help you get what you want so that you can live well. Crown Bank. It's a lifestyle choice and the place to do business. Member FDIC.
Our friend Bruce Siskey asked if the Wild really wanted Quincey taking up minutes from young guys in Iowa. I think you already answered that one.
I don't think he's going.
Our friend Alec, does James Neal hate Russo hockey more than Parisi?
Does James Neal hate Parisi or does Parisi hate me? Is that what he's saying?
I think he's asking whether James Neal or Parisi hates you more. I don't think
Parisi hates me.
I don't think Parisi hates you. No. From Skylar Vasius, a longtime listener, how long do you anticipate the leash being on Chuck Fletcher if the Wild keep struggling?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, again, Skylar's asking a good question. Is that even though everything I'm feeling is that they're going to give him to the end of the year, but before making that decision, if all of a sudden they get to the trade deadline and you need Fletcher making significant moves for the future, do you just cut ties with him then? But then, I don't know if you're going to make Brent your GM officially. So then what you're doing is you're saying, all right, you make the moves as an interim, which is kind of the same thing. So it's up in the air.
Is Brent enough his own man to be given a full shot at GM if that job's open, or is he more tied with Fletcher?
I think that he's tied. I think the perception in the NHL is that he's Fletcher's guy. And every GM, you look around the league, it's all about loyalty and trust. And you look, and everybody's got their right hand man or guys that have been with them their entire career. And Brent is that guy with Chuck. If there's a new GM come in here, I guarantee you look at their past and you'll be able to diagram it and you know who's eventually going to go work here. Why is John Anderson and Bob Woods on Bruce Boudreau's bench? Same reason. It's trust. So there's that perception, but I don't know what Craig Leopold thinks of that. Has Brent proved himself enough to Craig to be a legit choice if all of a sudden there are longtime historical GMs that are available? Whether that's a Lamoriello or Armstrong or a Holland or a McClellan or a Dean Lombardi that's out there. There's a lot of guys out there. Does Brent deserve that job over there? You do have to look at his drafting record as well and say, all right, there have been good picks and then there have been maybe picks that are questionable right now. The one that we've talked about a lot here is Brock Besser and passing him up for Joel Eriksson-Ek. I think Eriksson-Ek's going to be a very good player in this league a long time. Depends what you want, but Besser, here he is in the NHL, thriving right now. So right away, it has that perception that that was the wrong guy. History will judge that down the stretch.
Right. From Jonathan Oliver, Jonathan Oliver asks, what has been your favorite part of this catastrophe so far? Obviously, I think he's being a little sarcastic. I'll just say this: I don't like watching a local team struggle. I prefer covering winning teams. They're more interesting. We draw more readers. We draw more listeners. It's more fun to be around a team. So to take what might have been a silly question seriously, I don't have a favorite part.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't have a favorite part. I don't root for disasters. That's for
No.
sure.
From Oscar Branzer, how much have the increased slashing calls affected scoring?
I think that's Eric Tahachik at our site, The Athletic, the other day wrote a big story where he talked to a ton of teams and had a ton of voices in there, and I think it's legit. Scoring's up a lot this year. Every night, I mean, the night the Wild lost 7-2 in Winnipeg, Anaheim lost 7-3 in Anaheim. Mm-hmm. Frankly, I'm shocked that the way Bob Murray is, I'm shocked that essentially he wasn't fired, Carlisle, after that game. But man, I do think it's legit. I think now there's no hooking and holding anymore because you're not allowed to do that. Now you can't tap along the hands as guys are coming in the zone, and you see it. I mean, players have adjusted. Mm-hmm. Slashing's down, and it's legit down. I mean, you look at guys. Heck, watch Wild hockey, and you know the slashing's down because these guys are just flying into the zone unencumbered.
Absolutely. Dave Benkowski, is bad chemistry in the room causing the team to not play a team game?
I feel like we're getting different questions from different people. You're saying names I haven't heard before.
Yeah,
so
I think you're
that's
right.
a good thing.
Yeah.
So that's bad chemistry in the room. I think that, look, there are good guys on this team, especially the core group of kids. I mean, not kids anymore, but the Granlunds, the Niederreiters, the Zuckers, Coyles.
Yep.
I mean, there are, and then the veterans, Koivu, Suter, those guys, Spurgeon, man. Yeah. So there are good guys in the room with character. I think my biggest concern with what's going on with this team is kind of what I've been alluding to, and probably the most this is where I wish I could write like you, because I feel like I can't even say it as eloquently as I want to say it, let alone write it. But I'm really equating it to, and I've talked to a lot of people about this, and I've talked to Eric Holla about this, is kind of the opposite of a Stanley Cup hangover. You and I think we've talked about it on the podcast. Eric Holla, at the end of last season, was sitting in the locker room all alone, angry. Now, he admits that it was partially because he kind of knew in the back of his mind it was probably his last game on the Wild. But he sat there for 20 minutes just staring across the room, and we went up to him and talked to him, and he just said, I'm sick of this. We're all sick of this. And I asked him in September when he was leaving, during those Octagon camps, when he was leaving the rink, what was the context of your quote? And what he said is that when you have these lofty expectations year after year after year after year, and you have the letdown year after year after year after year that the players in the room caused, that it is just exhausting. And that is what I think is going on now. I really genuinely do. I think this team has been together for so long, the core of it. We all made going into the season a big deal that they were 8 new faces, and the Ennises and the Felinos and the Cullens and the Quincys and the Winnecks, and they got rid of the Prossers and the Folans and the Kempers and the Schraders in addition to the ones that we always talk about, the Palmaville, Scandella, and Holla and people like that. But that the core of this team has dealt with these letdowns that it is so difficult for them to get up for this season, to commit itself the way that it did when they were rolling for 3 months last year and became the team that could have led the West but finished with the second most points, only 3 points behind the Blackhawks. We've seen it with the Blackhawks before get what we feel is kind of bored on the ice. The only difference is that eventually they're able to put it together with their core group of superstars, where the Wild don't seem to have that right now. And the reason why I've started to believe this lately is because we're seeing, even though the Niederreiters, Zuckers, the Granlunds are starting to score, they've been bad defensively. I mean, I saw Chuck Fletcher today talk to Jason Zucker for 10 minutes, and I know that might piss off Wild fans that feel like, well, Zucker's the only one scoring every night. He's only got, he's got 13 goals, like tied for 6th, 7th in the NHL in goals. But I don't think that that Chuck was talking to him about all his off-ice philanthropy. I think he was talking about what he had just talked to us about, and the fact that these top 6 forwards are throwing pucks away left and right. And we saw that with Zucker the other night. And so I think that Chuck is now, instead of as a team, is going to start talking to these individuals and saying, I need you to play better. It's not working, you just scoring 13 goals and blah, 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 like obviously. So I really genuinely think, I keep on equating it to the opposite of a Stanley Cup hangover, but I just wonder, Mikko Koivu hasn't scored in 15 games. and blowing empty nets and just like I know that he's not a guy that traditionally has a high shooting percentage and is a goal scorer, but holy crap, score a freaking goal.
Yeah.
The team needs you. And that was on a different subject. I kind of left the train of thought, but you know
That's
what
okay.
I mean? But I just feel like this team looks not physically tired, but kind of like, all right, I don't know.
I've been around Vikings teams that they lose a big game one year, the next year they're just not the same.
Well, and Jim, this team, even though they have characters, they haven't proven to be the most mentally strong team in the world. They lose in the playoffs all the time. A couple years ago, they clearly said enough with Mike Yeo.
Yep.
And could they be doing that now?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that they're in the back of their mind like, let's get the GM fired, but it's just like it's like they just sometimes it's like they're waiting for the next move to spark them into something. It's kind of the same way in a game where they need something bad to happen to wake them up to actually show some fight. It's kind of the same thing. That just seems to be, we always talk about the identity of the Wild, the bread and butters or defense. The identity of the Wild might be this, that this core is just
not good enough.
Yeah. And which is scary because these guys are long. This is not the NHL where years ago you could just blow it up. You could have a complete fire sale at the deadline because teams, the Rangers or the Detroit Red Wings would be able to take every contract in the league, the Toronto Maple Leafs. That is not the case anymore. Nobody has cap space. Very few teams can just take your players that you want to move, whether they're good players or not. And that's the scary thing is, is this team still going to be one of those teams that if they don't make the playoffs, they're going to wind up at the 11th pick?
You're right. Yeah.
That's kind of the Minnesota Wild way. Somebody keeps on saying what happens first, do they win a cup or win the lottery? And I'm like, they're not lucky enough for either. It's just that's the thing.
I think that's a good summary. I know I didn't get to a lot of Twitter questions today. I do appreciate you sending them in, but we had so much news to get to today, we didn't really rely on the Twitter questions as much. And to come back to Michael for a final non-thought, caffeinated non-thought, we can have that's exactly what it will be. It'll be a caffeinated non-thought. Thanks to Twill in the Edina Galleria, twillmn.com. Twill on Instagram. I highly recommend their Instagram feed. Todd Moritz, Moritz of Sandvold Financial Group, fixologyrepair.com, crownbank.com. Again, email me if you'd like to advertise with us, jsouhan at startribune.com. On this double star Starbucks day, what's your final thought?
Well, I hope Kim Jong-un doesn't blow up our country.
That
would be nice.
Here's what's happening.
Think he listens to the podcast?
We are worried. There's a guy who's threatening to nuke us, and I'm not even sure that's like a top 5 news story.
Yeah. You want to hear? Let me read you something. Here's a final thought that just popped in my head. Because lately I've been just seeing all this kind of like, what was me?
Oh, the other new big news story is that they're pushing through a tax bill that will destroy all of our lives.
I don't know if I should read this this Facebook post because it was on a private Facebook, and I feel like I should get permission. Should I read it and then ask permission afterwards? And if it's not, we cut it.
Sure, do that.
So this, I don't know, this guy, I think he's like 24 or 5. I've talked about him before. His name's Jake Walker, muscular dystrophy, and it lives in Atlanta. Huge Wild fan. He put something on his Facebook the other day that just touched my heart.
Yeah.
Which says everything about his attitude in this crazy world of just kind of meanness on Twitter and all the scary things that we see out there on a daily basis. But listen to this. So, I mean, just think of the strength of this guy, okay? He goes, I hope everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving. By now, most of you probably ran up tremendous amounts of debt, Black Friday shopping. Fortunately, do I have an opportunity for you? I'm offering fulfilling positions at Jacob Walker Healthcare Services. Imagine the excitement hanging out with yours truly as I watch endless amounts of ice hockey, drink exorbitant amounts of Mountain Dew and Red Bull, and incessantly complain about how worthless Iron Man is as a superhero. Then he goes, seriously, though, I'm tremendously blessed to live an extremely independent life. The backbone of this independence is the personal care attendants that afford me this lifestyle. People come and go, and I'm currently looking for the next wave of people to help me continue carrying out this dream. Any applications, recommendations, or general message spreading would be greatly appreciated and extremely valuable as I continue to try to be the productive adult I strive to be. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Isn't that kid amazing?
Fantastic, and I hope he doesn't mind us using it because I
Yeah.
think that's a great way. I'm glad you read it, and it's a great way to end our podcast.
And he's just he's a terrific guy. I've gotten to meet with him a couple times, met his family. I met him in Atlanta once at a Starbucks with one of those personal care attendants that was just a saint. And then I've met him now twice in Nashville because it's the closest city to him that he's come with his family to see the Wild play. And, it definitely it's one of those things. It's like, I just can't imagine having the strength that guy has. And so let's I think, finish this on an uplifting note.
Pretty little city built on a hillside. Music in the bars and fire in the sky. We went to the beach and it was covered in ice. And I used to call it home. So much coming out, there's nothing going in. I know that you feel like you're never gonna win. Oh, but the world won't forgive a winner.
Blah, blah, blah.
Let's say you just bought a house. Bad news is, you're one step closer to becoming your parents. You'll proudly mow the lawn. Ask if anybody noticed you mowed the lawn. Tell people to stay off the lawn. Compare it to your neighbor's lawn. And complain about having to mow the lawn again. Good news is, it's easy to bundle home and auto through Progressive and save on your car insurance, which, of course, will go right into the lawn. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Discount not available in all states or situations.
Security threats are everywhere. But with Xfinity XFi, you're notified of threats to your in-home Wi-Fi network, so all your connected devices are protected. That's simple, easy, awesome. Switch to Xfinity today and get a great offer. You'll get fast speeds and the best in-home Wi-Fi experience with Xfinity XFi. Plus, ask about enhanced security for safer browsing and more. Go to Xfinity.com, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit an Xfinity store to switch today. Restrictions apply.